This week, the British Prime Minister Theresa May announced that her government would be one of the first countries in the world to adopt the new international definition of anti-Semitism to combat the rise in attacks and abuse on the Jewish community in Britain.
Many Jewish people in this country are feeling vulnerable and fearful, and you are saying that you are anxious for your families, for your children and yourselves. I never thought I would see the day when members of the Jewish community in the United Kingdom would say that they were fearful of remaining here in the United Kingdom.
This new working definition of anti-Semitism is also designed to target those who hold anti-Zionist beliefs, claiming that Israel is a racist state and the Jewish nation has no right to exist. In the modern era, anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism and has been used to disguise their hatred and malice of those of the hard political left towards the Jewish people. Zionism is the founding political and religious ideology of the State of Israel that refers to the right of the Jewish people to return to their ancient covenant homeland in the Middle East. This has been the dream and aspiration of the Jewish people for thousands of years, living in exile to one day return to Zion. Sadly, over the past few decades, we've witnessed a brutal degeneration of the term Zionism used by those who hate Israel. They falsely accuse the Jewish state of being a Western imperialist implant in the Middle East. They also shamelessly claim that Israel is ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, and therefore Israel as a Jewish state has no international legitimacy and a right to exist is constantly questioned. Theresa May's announcement comes at a time of rising Jew hatred in Britain and the rest of Europe. The Community Service Trust, who monitor anti-Semitic activities in the UK, have reported the number of anti-Semitic instances rose by 11% in the first 6 months of 2016. They registered 557 instances compared to 500 in the same period in 2015. This new and important redefinition of anti-Semitism was agreed in May by the 31 members of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, in the Romanian capital of Bucharest. They agreed on this new definition of the term anti-Semitism to tackle this growing problem of Jew hatred, and this is what they agreed. Adopt the following non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, towards Jewish communities, institutions and religious facilities. The international body went on to provide further guidance by stating that in denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination and claiming that the existence of Israel is a racist state is anti-Semitism. Here are the extracts from the newly agreed working definition of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is defined by those who state that the Jews are conspiring to hurt humanity and to blame the Jews for why things go wrong in the world, expressed in speech, writing and visual expression. Anti-Semitism is the labeling of Jews as the sinister stereotypes that have negative character traits in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, expressed within religious contexts such as calling for, aiding or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. Anti-Semitism also includes making untruthful, dehumanizing, demonizing or stereotypical allegations that the Jews as such as the myth of the worldwide Jewish conspiracy that the Jews are controlling the media, economy and the government. Anti-Semitism is also accusing the Jewish people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoings by a single Jewish person or a group, such as blaming the Jews for 9/11. Anti-Semitism is accusing Israel and the Jewish people for saying that they have invented or exaggerated the Holocaust. Anti-Semitism is also accusing the Jewish citizens of other countries of being more loyal to Israel than the national interests of their own nations. Anti-Semitism is denying the Jewish people the right to self-determination by claiming that the existence of Israel is a racist state and has no right to exist. Anti-Semitism is applying double standards to Israel to demand that Israel behaves in a way that is not demanded of other democratic nations. Anti-Semitism is also using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, such as claiming that the Jews killed Jesus or the blood libel to demonize Israel. Anti-Semitism is drawing comparisons to the Nazis with Israeli actions to protect its citizens from terrorism. Anti-Semitism is also holding the Jewish people for all being collectively responsible for the actions of the State of Israel. Anti-Semitism is classified as a criminal act when attacking the Jewish people in physical assault, damaging Jewish properties, including schools, places of worship, and cemeteries. Anti-Semitism is also discriminating against Jewish people by not providing them with the opportunities or services available to others. Theresa May, addressing the annual Conservative Friends of Israel's lunch, showed incredible courage and leadership to adopt the new working definition of anti-Semitism. She said, "Anti-Semitism has no place in politics and no place in this country. It is unacceptable that there is anti-Semitism in this country. It is even worse that incidents are reportedly on the rise, and it's disgusting that these twisted views are being found in British politics." On adopting the new working definition of anti-Semitism, she went on to say, "There will be one definition of anti-Semitism, in essence, language or behaviour that displays hatred towards Jews because they are Jews, and anyone guilty of that will be called out." She also gave a strong rebuke to the Labour Party and its deputy leader, Tom Watson, for singing Am Israel High, that means in English, the people of Israel live, at the Labour Friends of Israel lunch. May said, "No amount of karaoke can make up for turning a blind eye to anti-Semitism. No matter what Labour say or sing, they cannot ignore what is happening in their party." She also called Israel a remarkable country and went on to say, "We have in Israel a thriving democracy, a beacon of tolerance, and an engine of enterprise, an example to the rest of the world about how to overcome adversity and defying disadvantages." The Labour Party has been plagued with accusations of anti-Semitism within the party ever since Jeremy Corbyn became its leader back in 2015. There have been 2 official internal investigations of anti-Semitism within the party, and both reports concluded there was no institutional problem. Even though the Home Affairs Select Committee of the House of Commons published its own report into anti-Semitism in October of this year, they stated that the Labour Party demonstrated incompetence in dealing with members accused of anti-Semitism. The report also criticised Jeremy Corbyn's lack of consistent leadership over the issue. In response to the Prime Minister's adopting the new working definition of anti-Semitism, Corbyn responded, but through a spokeswoman who said, "Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party share the view that language or behaviour that displays hatred towards Jews is anti-Semitism and is repugnant and unacceptable as any other forms of racism." Corbyn's statement on anti-Semitism is to be welcomed, but his hostility towards Israel by speaking at a Labour Friends of Israel event where he could not even mention the name Israel would mean that he would cry foul under the new definition of anti-Semitism. His members of parliament and party members who have questioned Israel's right to exist and claim that Israel is a racist state would now, under the new ruling, be considered anti-Semitic.
Say the word Israel! Say the word Israel!
Thank you very much, Jeremy, as leader of our party.
How will the British government implement the new definition of anti-Semitism? Firstly, it is not legally binding, but the police already use a version of this definition. It could also be used by the courts in cases where they need to distinguish between racially aggravated harassment as opposed to just harassment. Government departments, local councils, universities, and other public bodies could be asked to formally adopt it. This could also mean that they could use it to confront the boycott, divestments, and sanctions movement. The chief rabbi, Ephraim Marvis, welcomed the Prime Minister's announcement of adopting the new definition of anti-Semitism by saying, "I would like to salute the Prime Minister for her leadership on this issue and for the government's commitment to tackling the scourge of anti-Semitism in our society." For some, calling out anti-Semitism has long felt like trying to strike a moving target with competing views about what it is and what is not acceptable. My hope is that the adoption of this definition will provide clarity which will herald a far more effective discourse on the ways that can highlight and challenge anti-Semitism wherever it is found. The Prime Minister has demonstrated incredible leadership and courage to confront the oldest hatred in the world, Jew hatred, by adopting the new international definition of anti-Semitism. By doing this, she is not only protecting the Jewish people and Israel, but also preserving British society from evil. History has shown us that what starts with the Jewish people never finishes with the Jewish people, because the forces of anti-Semitism are opposed to freedom and democracy. Therefore, the Jewish people have been described as the canary down the mineshaft for society. When the canaries die of poisonous gases, this is a warning to the miners to get out of the mine. This is the same principle for society. When the Jewish people are in trouble, that means the rest of society is in danger.